Streaming on Hulu in the United States and Disney Plus in Canada this week is the journalism drama Boston Strangler, and here's my review. The story of the Boston Strangler became a big deal in the 1960s for understandable reasons, as it was a chilling event that made women scared for their safety. There's potential and intriguing film on the subject, even when focused on the journalists investigating the story. Unfortunately, the approach taken here results in a dry and dull retelling. Watching the movie, it's difficult not to be reminded of David Fincher's Zodiac, another journalist-centered film about a serial killer scaring a city. It's not just the same subject matter that brings up comparisons either. Boston Strangler has trouble creating its own identity or making the story interesting. In the earlier scenes, director Matt Ruskin is certainly trying to give the film a cinematic flourish. He knows how to bring mood to the Boston apartments and the newspaper offices. The people populating them are not developed too much, although the actors try their best. Keira Knightley and Carrie Coon do well in their respective roles as reporters Loretta McLaughlin and Jean Cole. They are particularly good at delivering cutting remarks when the situation calls for it. The characters themselves just don't have much to them. The film attempts to depict the falling apart of McLaughlin's marriage, but it's a subplot that does not feel that important to the overall narrative and ends abruptly anyway. The mystery of the Strangler is one that could have been intriguing, but the film goes about this in a fairly dull manner. We get the expected scenes of McLaughlin and Cole digging around and having conversations with detectives, but there's no spark to the dialogue. David Dastmalchian does what he can as the case's lead suspect, Albert DeSalvo, but even what should be the most intimidating character in the movie does not leave much of a memorable impression. The Zodiac influence is incredibly obvious, but that does not necessarily have to be a bad thing. That's a fantastic film to be inspired by when putting together a journalism movie. The film just lacks its own personal stamp and comes across like Diet Fincher. Boston Strangler even does its own version of the basement scene, one of the most nerve-wracking moments in Zodiac. The movie just sort of plods along through its runtime, and by the end, it does not even feel like the viewer has learned that much about the real events. Thus, we're left with having to go to the Wikipedia page to see if there's a more interesting narrative to be found here. Boston Strangler never rises above being an average journalism movie. There's a lot of intrigue surrounding true crime right now, for better or for worse. The story of the Boston Strangler is one that could inspire fascinating mystery, and there's a lot that could be done with the two women trying to figure out the details, so they can properly report on it. The film just barely scratches the surface and mostly winds up a stuffy period piece, despite the filmmaker's best efforts to liven up the cinematography. Keira Knightley and Carrie Coon also try their best when the material handed to them, but the result leaves one surprisingly bored.